Hi, Jordan. Yes, yes. Perhaps I can just kick this off. Yeah, I'm James. I'm an international coach. Work with a lot of people around the world who are in transitions and transformations and moving their lives to a new level, right? So, but obviously today we're going to be talking about people taking the leap to a new country or perhaps a new lifestyle. But really, it's more about to a new country because I've moved to a new country a couple of times, and so have you. Perhaps you can say a little bit about what you're about there, Geraldine, before we go into the meat of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm also just very excited to share with the audience that, one of the reasons we're talking is because you really help loads of people in your coaching business to transform their lives. So whatever their dream is, whether that be, having a new business or, just having a better type of quality of life, or fulfilling a dream, a long
Yeah.
thought of dream of moving abroad, you
Yeah.
help them do that. And we met obviously because we were both in business consulting and coaching, and I've done the same. So that's where we connected. I know I've moved to countries about 6 different times, and you've moved back and forth as well to a number of countries. So yeah,
Yep.
let's
Yeah.
get off. There's so much to talk about, but we'll just
Yeah.
maybe 10-15 minutes just to give some highlights and tips for people. Yeah.
I mean, very quickly, as you were talking, I do help people who want the laptop life, whether they want to move from one country to another and have fun. I have one particular guy who's doing his work. He's moved to about 5 countries in the last year. So he's got the laptop life. And I think there's a lot of people probably listening to this who want that kind of lifestyle. So let's talk about moving to a new country, because I've done it a couple of times. But more recent, just a big background. I was working in the corporate world. Working as an executive, working 7 days a week, and I had a young daughter at the time, and just full on. I was very stressed out, and I was thinking about taking that leap to a new country for years. And I mean, I had a life crisis. I'm not going to go into it now, but I think that just gave me a kick up the arse to say it's now, or it's going to be another 10 years. So I took the leap, and
How'd it go?
well, it was great. Overall, it was a fantastic move. My daughter she's now much older now. She's leaving university, but she had a fantastic upbringing because we moved from the UK to Spain. Okay, so we decided to move to Spain. I left a comfortable job, so did my wife. She happens to be Spanish, but at the end of the day, we were going back to her country with no real work, no place to live. And we had a daughter of 5 years of age, right?
Huge risks.
A
Wow.
huge risk, yeah. So we gave up all that security because we want to kind of like living that dream of a different country, different culture, and of course seeing our daughter grow up in an environment that was much more, sustainable for her, particularly in
So
Spain.
can I ask, what was it back then that was driving you so hard to kind of get away from the UK?
Well, I mentioned earlier on, I was in the corporate world doing 7 days a week in a nice job with the so-called golden handcuffs,
Uh-huh.
company car, commissions, pension scheme, the whole thing in sales.
It's a lot to give
And
up.
I think that was the biggest drive for me. I was just basically constantly under stress,
Mm.
under a lot of kind of the adrenaline. I think some people probably relate to this, whether you're in the corporate world or in a normal sort of job. There's we're all under the pump at times in working for somebody else. That was a key driver for me. I just wanted to live my life. I wanted to have more space and more time with my family. Right,
Hmm.
that's the key driver for me. How about yourself?
Well, I've up until the age of 20, I was kind of following my family around. So I guess I got sort of trained early on what that's like to move to different places. We always used to
Yeah.
move as a family unit, the 6 of us. But over time, I have there's 4 siblings from our family, and over time, we've kind of left older siblings in the various places that we went, and it reduced down to just a couple of us left in the nest, really, with our parents. But each time it was there was a job change for my dad, and we had to learn how to adapt. But when I got to be of age for myself, I realized the one country I really, really wanted to move to, which had been since forever, was Italy. And I decided, well, I couldn't learn Italian in any university that I ended up with. I got a degree in French, but as soon as I got my graduation degree, I said, I'm off. I'm take $2,000 that I saved up of jobs, and I'm going. And that was really the leap. Just my mom had told me stories ever since I was 5. She had lived there when she was young, and it just sounded fantastic. And we had been on a couple of school holidays there, and I loved the sunshine and the food, and the smells are amazing. The gardens, everything's very beautiful in compared to where I had grown up, and it was just very attractive to me. But it was a lot different moving there rather than vacationing there. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, because I've been to Spain many a times because my wife is Spanish, and I have some friends over there. But there was the kind of like fantasy thing, but the reality was what a different thing. We moved over there within about 2 weeks. I mean, we had no place to stay, so we were sleeping on the floor with my mother-in-law's place, right, for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But the reality hit after 2 weeks that I realized I was in a country that was not my own culture. I'd left a secure job in IT sales, and we didn't have any guarantees. My wife was the same. She left a very good job in the UK, and jobs are not exactly abundant in Spain and places probably like Italy and so on. So it was a bit of a scary moment to realize we'd taken the leap, and we're thinking, what's next?
Too late, can't go back.
Well, yeah, I could have gone back, but it would have been very costly. So we let go. We sold our home in the UK and all the rest of it. So it's a scary move for anyone to take, right? Mm-hmm. But you know what? If you don't take a risk, you don't live. The only growth happens outside your comfort zone. If you want everything guaranteed, okay, you'll always kind of stay kind of stuck. And I think a lot of people are like that, especially with the people I coach. The growth happens when you're outside your comfort zone. So I decided to get out of that comfort zone big time. So did my wife, and we went there. But you know what? At the end of the day, I just thought, and this is for people listening, think about if you're moving to a new lifestyle or a country, come from the place of what are my skill sets and what are my resources. So my resources or my assets was I knew about selling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I knew about marketing. I knew about coaching as well.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Sorry, what can you do extremely well?
Yeah, what are you good at? What do you and just see whether you can overlay that into the country. And anyway, to cut a long story short, I decided to go into property sales, real estate sales. I'd never done it in my life. And then I set up my own real estate business, and that was going on for about 8 years. I made a lot of money. And I was helping UK people to move what I was doing to Spain and relocating in many cases.
Brilliant.
But that wasn't an easy step. It was like you had to be open. You had to take responsibility for where you are, and you had to be proactive. You had to get, I had to keep going out there and finding out where do I fit in? What am I going to do? What's my next step? Because it's easy to say, I'm just going to pack up and go back to the UK. It's easy to give up.
Yes. Yeah.
So that was my experience. So my tip to anyone listening to this is that there's some great things about moving to, if you're in America, a lot of people go to Costa Rica, for example, right? Or Nicaragua or whatever, or Northern Europeans tend to head for Italy, Spain, or Portugal.
Yeah.
So the tip is always look at what are the potential threats before you go, and then see what you can do to manage that threat.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. That's very important.
And also what resources, as you said, what internal resources have you got, and what possible external resources have you got before you go? Any planning that you can do. I was only responsible for myself when I was 20, when I first moved overseas on my own. And I knew that I only needed about $2,000 because I was not going to be jumping into some luxurious apartment situation. I happened to look around at the time, from 6 years earlier in a school trip to Italy, a friend of mine, unbeknownst to me, we'd lost touch, she was a couple of years older, had actually moved to Florence, and I had in my head I was going to move to Rome. It's my second favorite city in the world, my first favorite in Italy. And when the reality came down to it, I said, you know what? I know somebody in Florence, and lo and behold, it's about keeping an open mind, right? She happened to need a roommate. A room had just come free in her apartment. It was $250 at the time equivalent, and I went, perfect, I'll do that. And if I only stay for a month, great. Well, I ended up staying for 4 years. So,
wonderful.
I thought I was getting to Rome. I got close enough. I got to Florence and I got to visit Rome as often. And later on, I realized I was actually better off in Florence. It was a smaller community. I had a couple of resources to get me going because Jen didn't just live on her own. She had lived with 3 other girls. So there was a built-in sort of friendship and network that she'd already been there to develop for me. And so, I was able to fairly quickly just land on my feet, picked up a couple of English clients, or rather Italian clients trying to learn English, and just taught some private English lessons, literally just to get some cash in the door and not use up all my savings. And one thing leads to the next.
You work with your skills. So what tips would you offer the person watching this?
So, definitely, before you leap, as you say, analyze, do what we would normally do in business, a SWOT analysis, right? What are your opportunities? What are your threats?
Strengths, weaknesses. For those who don't know, a SWOT is what? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Exactly.
Yeah, and if somebody wants to Google it, then Google SWOT. Anyway, carry on.
SWOT, exactly. Yeah. And so, that's what I did do. And when I realized, the threat is, if I go to Rome, which is where I really want to go, the threat is I won't find anywhere to live. It's twice as expensive, it was at the time anyway, as Florence. And I won't have a built-in network. That's a threat. Really, I should look at the opportunity. The opportunity here is be open-minded. Florence was never something I was interested in because I considered it far too small and too touristy. I wanted a big city, and I wanted a place like Rome. But it worked out really well. And in the end, what I really, really wanted was to just make Italian friends and learn the language. So I did. And I was able to do that and stay for the full 4 years that I wanted to stay. So that was great.
So sounds great. So you've got another language, like myself. I speak Spanish now. So that's one of the ups in moving to another culture. And also, I think moving to another culture changes the way you think. You become more flexible. You see life differently. You don't get focused. You think, the core of the world is in my case, London, and it's not.
Right.
Yeah. Or you're living in New York, the core of the world is, I'm American living in New York. Well, it's not. There's a lot more in the world. And sometimes we need to get ourselves into a different culture. And it's very good for your brain as well. They say that, people with who are willing to move to a new culture, learn a new language, is fantastic for the brain. I'm from a coaching point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So
Definitely.
It keeps you very alert. It keeps you open to possibilities.
Absolutely. And it's exciting. It is exciting. The romantic part of that is that you are feeling very alive the whole time, because you have to be on your toes to make sure that you understand, you blend in, you're making headway on the goals that you've set out for yourself in the first place. Just to say, that comfort zone that I think lots and lots of people settle into, it is scary, but one of the biggest, most important things in life, in order to feel at the end of the day, we're all going to die. At the end of the day, we all want to feel like we've made this work somehow on our own terms. And if you just stay in your comfort zone, you never stretch yourself, you won't know what you're capable of. And all of us, I think it's just the human nature, human condition. We all have a little sparkle inside of ourselves, especially when we're young. And if we can keep nurturing that, to just keep stretching ourselves, keep learning, that piece of wanting to continue learning throughout your life is incredibly important. Because if you're not doing that, the opposite is, in my view, you're dying a little bit more every day.
My mentor says, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah, I feel that, like under my skin. I feel that. So moving is one of those exhilarating things that you're disrupting everything about your life. And in fact, we teach that in business as well these days, with the internet and everything going on. A business's lifespan now, used to be maybe 20, 30, 50 years, has shortened to be 5 years. But anybody who's starting a business knows that most businesses aren't even in existence 5 years later. So this is the speed at which business is moving at the moment. And the reason why good businesses stick around is because they're willing to disrupt themselves. They're willing to be uncomfortable and sit in that discomfort for a while. And moving to another country, and especially learning another whole culture and language, is nothing if it's not just learning to sit in discomfort. But that's stretching you, and that's growth. So really important for us.
So it's scary, but it's also fulfilling, isn't it? So we've both been through an experience. I hope that whoever's watching this will get some inspiration from it. And this is not everything's going to be wonderful when you move. No, there's going to be some challenges, and be willing to disrupt yourself. And as a result, you'll learn more about yourself and the whole process. Yeah.
That's it. And just, I know we're coming up here on a number of minutes, and just to kind of respect everyone's time, but just a quick fun story. Like, one of the best things was, you know, they always talk about turning lemons into lemonade, right? And when the first week that I moved to Florence, there was like this gift from heaven. It sounds crazy, but I was wandering around going, oh my God, we live on the outskirts of town, and I really, if I want to get a job, this is going to be too long on a bus ride. I need a bicycle, but I didn't want to spend my savings before I had a job on a bike. And I was walking home one evening, it was about 4 days after I'd landed, and somebody had thrown out a bicycle in a street dumpster, and I went, I've never done this before, but I think I'm going to look at that bicycle. And I looked at it. It was all bent. It was horrible. It was rusty. I looked at it and I realized I can fix this, and I don't have anything to do because I'm unemployed right now. So I better just go fix it. I went and got the parts. I got some paint, and that bicycle, which was thrown out 4 years earlier, I actually sold it to somebody. I had to give it to a friend to sell to somebody, and I got $25 for it at the end of the day. So, I mean, here was this gift that transported me all around the city for the next 4 years, but somebody else had thrown it away. What would you say are your top 2 takeaway tips for somebody considering, you know, they're fearful, but they want to do it, and this is going to be the year they're going to make that leap and move? What would you give them?
Well, if you've been thinking about it for a long, long time, then it sounds like you need to go do it. It's just leap out of your comfort zone, be okay with not knowing, act in spite of fear, because that's going to come up, and it's okay to be fearful and just do it, right? And the second thing is, you know, do a little bit of homework and make sure you're aware of any of the potential downsides, and have a little plan to deal with that kind of stuff. They're my 2 top tips, really. But, you know, also enjoy the journey, enjoy the adventure, because life is an adventure. So it's going over there with an open mind and be willing to enjoy it. Not saying if this goes wrong, it's just, well, what if it goes amazingly?
Exactly. And I don't know if the video, the last piece of the video, cut us off on the bicycle story, but that was sort of the metaphor for me, is that here's this journey, and I'm just continuing on that journey, on that found bicycle, and what a gift that was, because it helped literally transport me for the next 4 years all around the city in Florence. And I would say, definitely, I agree with you, you know, be prepared, like a Girl Scout or a Boy Scout, be a bit prepared, but don't be over prepared, because you'll never take the leap. And it's really important to just do it at a certain point. Save some money, save just enough, and go on and go do it. But if people want to find out more or connect with us, they can go to richlifedesign.com. The website will be up spring of 2019, and maybe it'd be fun to hear where people are dreaming about moving to. So if you can comment at the bottom of the video if you got anything out of this video, hopefully it was helpful to you, and where in the world do you want to move to, and how can we help you make that transformation?
And if they've got any questions, we'll do what we can with the comments. And I'm not sure we're going to put the video, but we'll if we can handle any of the questions, we'll do so. But yeah, thanks. That was good sharing there. Thanks, Geraldine.
Good chat. Thanks, James. Talk to you soon.
See ya.
Okay. Bye.